2008, after the post-election violence. Android is not here, but they want to collect data using personal digital assistants. Perhaps some of you didn't know what those are, because technology quite kicked them fast out of the market. And we were able to help with, so this is a demographic surveillance system. So those from population studies, you have or health related studies, you have that idea. So people to follow up, data to collect. And at that point, things were quite disconnected. So you have to collect the data on laptops, the PDAs, and someone has to be there with a laptop to do the download. Even very little data could not be sent through the phone. I think we really have to appreciate where tech came from. And we did the first application that would be running on the PDAs as a project that had begun at in Georgia, Atlanta, CDC, but was completed in CDC Kisian, which was quite a springboard for us. I think we got job references just because of the success of that project. So just indicating that there are multiple ways to pursue your goals. One is you could go entrepreneurship, but you could also go the employment way. There are opportunities there as well. I subsequently moved to Kenya Commercial Bank, and I would just indicate what gave the opportunity to move to Kenya Commercial Bank. So as I'm in employment, dealing with the data from the field, we have to look at how to do integration work. So how do we move the data from the systems and the databases on the phone, on the PDS in this case, to the laptop, and later from the laptop to the data center in a way that is semi-automated, because people have to move the data. The internet is not what it is today. And the experience then led me to learning, back then called SQL Server Integration Services, to developing ETL, extraction, transformation, and loading of data. And it was a personal initiative at work, so I get the materials, and like my colleague said, materials here meant you really had to look for this from disks. We probably can't figure out how, given the internet and what it is today. And so that learning, a few months into the learning, actually my second month into personal initiative to learn, I see a job in the papers, and it's indicating they need a business intelligence systems developer, and I went for it. So again, telling you the importance of personal positioning. It's you to go learn the extra skill that gives you the opportunity for tomorrow. It's not. You have the degree, yes. You probably will be called for the interview, but what sets you apart is going to be what you invest in your own personal development. So I find myself at the Kenya Commercial Bank, and we are doing a data warehouse. Today I think it's even a no-brainer that you need a data warehouse. I think for the younger people, it's something you could do in a few weeks. But it's a 24-month project. It's sourced out to an Israeli company, then a startup called GStart. Tells you how lack of technical capacity was the case in the market. So we join it, and the idea for the bank is to do technology transfer. So they see an opportunity in us being trained so that when the company is out, we can sustain running the systems. We come in, we learn, we are a group of four developers, and my positioning from the earlier job has taken me through doing the work. Then along the way, the overall project was compliance with what you call Basel II. Basel II back then was a regulatory standard for banks that would enable them to lend absent security. So people were looking for, how do we lend to customers based on their behavior rather than what security they bring to the bank? This delivery of these models was to be done by statisticians. And in the team, a group of 6 statisticians had been selected. So we were to hand over, once the data was ready, to the statisticians. Then alas to the team, we had very good statisticians in terms of statistical inferences, knowing the methods, but they can't code. I think for people from mathematics, from the sciences, then you see the opportunity. You see what you have to do. You have to cross. You have to know how to code. So they couldn't code. And you see, it's at that scale of doing things, but then Kenya Commercial Bank has 1 million plus customers. You're not going to handcraft anything. You're going to do systems that automate all your processes. And so the company, the Israeli company, sees like they are running out of project time. And because of my interest, the project manager then, I would say his name, Shimon Falikovic, really, I think we touched, we clicked quite a lot, and he's interested in building my capacity. So he gives me a textbook, and the textbook is all about learning how to model. Then he makes this proposal that I thought was quite bold at the time. But they will train me to model because I can do the coding, hand over to me, and then I would train the statisticians. I think that tells you what power you just gain from your job when that statement is made. Again, self-positioning, you have learned. It's not something you are taught in class, but you have picked the skills. And then volunteering to give you the next opportunity. Like I could have just sat back and said, my work is done. Or my work is just to now maintain what we have done. But I still had, took the steps to get the next interest and get into the job. Of course, we did this job 3 years down the line. And I'm doing my master's. And one of the things about the University of Nairobi then for the master's was trying to teach things that were from other faculties and other groups. So like I was taught research methods by Professor Duda here from physics. Tells you how he brought in the perspective that was different. And then I'm taught remote, there's an optional unit for remote sensing. And I take the unit because I'm like, my option is to take networking, but I've dropped this from my career. But I just want the most irrelevant thing. That was my statement then. I want the most irrelevant thing for where I was positioned in the day to learn a new thing. And so I picked this course being offered from a different unit. Took the course. Even before I cleared the master's, I saw an European Union job placement. They needed a GIS and remote sensing officer. But when I read the job, it actually needed someone with lots of database management experience, which I already had. I went for it, got the job, and started figuring out how do I bring in what I got from class into the new job. I did that job for an overall, as a contractor for the EU for almost eight years. The first structured drought monitoring system for Kenya under the National Drought Management Authority is one I massively contributed to, including developing models that try to predict what drought looks like ahead. And I didn't lose sight of that opportunity. I was always interested in the research and academia side, and I think that's from the back in the degree at Egerton, like you were told. You really have to get your eyes out there for the research opportunities. You have to learn to collaborate. And so that bit of work formed part of my PhD research. Then, as where I am today, I think quite key for me is I moved back to health, but in this case, back to community health. So I work with an organization called MEDIC. MEDIC supports the implementation of the community health toolkit. Most countries adopt and call it electronic community health information system. So if you've seen the community health workers back in our villages and the kits that they use, so the system that powers that is one that I contribute to in terms of data use, in terms of AI. But coming back to AI, as I summarize, we sometimes don't realize how much mathematics is core. And I would add elements of physics into this. 2005, AI is not the buzzword it is today. But we are in class being taught basic mathematics. And discrete maths is part of this, algebra somewhere along the way. And you're being taught these concepts, like set theory, for example, within basic maths. And then we go back to the Department of Computer Science, and their unit still handling the same set theory, the same discrete mathematics, and you don't really understand why this has to be taken, one, from a maths perspective, and two, from a computer science perspective. Until you get later into AI and you realize that it's just a big word for handling matrices, for handling, regression equations. It never gets far off math. But why the math is important, if you look at the challenges that we are mentioning, AI fairness, this is the advocacy side for AI fairness, but there's the technical side to solving that problem. If we are supposed to evaluate that models are fair in what judgments they aid people to do, or in which decisions they aid people to do, we have to automate the processes for determining whether they are fair or not. So I would say a couple of things stand out for me that that would then be my advice to the group here. One is self-position. The extra course today that you can take, whether it's Coursera, whether it's Udemy, please take that course. And I would very much insist that there's no point you have more time to do extra learning than when you're in campus. The problem is you only realize it in hindsight. That's the unfortunate thing about it. The other one is volunteer to learn. And volunteer to learn doesn't mean you go out from what you are doing today. The position where you are seated is going to give you an opportunity to learn a new thing and pick the next role. The next one is find mentors. I think I've been a product of mentors. I wouldn't have gotten to AI if my then project lead didn't give me a book to read. But then again, he wouldn't have known the interest if I wouldn't be there discussing and wanting to understand how things stay together. I think someone already mentioned that stay current. I think I'll not belabor that. The other one is underline the importance of the basics. I would be happy if you walked into your next math class, and regardless of which background you are from, currently, wherever we have a team to deliver an AI project, and let me tell you, AI is something people talk much about but do very little about. If you asked people in this room who've conceptualized, developed, and actualized an AI project, you might not find. And so, and then you would fail to realize how multidisciplinary it is. So in the current teams where I lead AI projects, I will have a designer, for example. Most designers will come from a different background from computing. So they are from anthropology, they are from the social sciences. And if you're going to develop a robust product for the market, you can't eliminate a designer off that chain. We're going to need project managers. In the organization, we are human-centered. So you need the designers to go out, talk to the community, define that thing that you might have conceived to be a problem. Because sometimes we solve problems that should only lay unsolved in the labs. And then you have a project manager. Without a project manager, in actual place of work, scope is going to be overrun. Budgets are going to be overrun. And your project manager is not going to be, unless there's someone from computing who converted, it's going to be from the arts. And these are the people who are going to face out there with people. You have to capacity build them. And most of the time, they probably even know what it takes for success of AI projects than the technical person. Of course, then you need the technical people. But just to tell you, and I'm summarizing by saying,
yeah, within 1 minute, thank you.
80% of your A work is going to be preparation. Define the problem, look for the data, get it ready, be sure that the data would model reality, because sometimes you lose that track. And writing the technical code, and this is for the computer scientist here, is probably 10 to 15% of the investment. So as we sit here today, we are all capable of being AI practitioners, leaving out the computer scientists to deliver us the technical. And of course, finally, the statisticians in the room. I always have to have or work with a statistician because they are perfect when it comes to interpreting models, understanding what the models say. It's a skill that I would even encourage that as we cross-pollinate, we have, inferential statistics taught to computer scientists, because we come with, code is perfect, everything is working, and then it's broken when it meets humanity. I think that would be it for me. Keep learning, but again, position yourself so that your current defines what you do next.
Wow, wow, wow. Let us appreciate Daktari. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Gon Adede and Arumina. He has given us his Arumina experience and also the connection between what we go through in the university and the world of work, and very useful advice to our students. We gave him a bit of time because of the advantage of being present on the ground, but time is not on our side. Dr. Moses Dega is an Arumina, and he's also, some of our guests have said they have gone through his hands, and he has his experience, but him is one of us, so he will allow us to give him the least time. Within 5 minutes, Kaidre, Dr. Dega, thank you for organizing this wonderful event, and we know you have a lot of experience with AI, so give us your Arumina experience and the AI experience in 5 minutes.
I can talk very quickly. I joined Egerton in the year 2000 for BSc in computer science, and Chris and others were my classmates for that period of time. It's been 20 years since I saw Chris. I've seen him again today, but of course we've always corresponded. I was their class rep, and it was a joy to lead these brilliant minds. When I was an undergraduate, I was known, I'm an entrepreneur, and Professor Thuo says, me and him are in the same WhatsApp group in many ways, and I started teaching SPSS with Oscar. Oscar mentored me into teaching packages, and I came across SPSS, and I started teaching SPSS. And as I taught SPSS, I needed to understand how to explain the output to the people I'm teaching. So I started learning a little bit about the issues of regression analysis, ANOVA, all these things, the t-tests. I started learning because I needed to explain to the people I'm teaching. I was making money, so I'd deliver value. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with this mathematics thing. And as I was approaching my third, fourth year, I came across an advert from the UN that required somebody with computer science and statistics. And it was paying a lot of money. Remember? Money. So I decided when I'm done with my BSc computer science, I went to the chair of mathematics, Professor Ali, and asked Professor Ali, can I do a master's in statistics? That was now in my fourth year. He told me yes. And so what do I need to do? You need to stay behind and audit a few courses and then do your MSc. So I stayed behind after my fourth year and audited a few courses in statistics, sampling methods, calculus 3, etc. And off I went into MSc statistics, met the likes of Adolf Wagala. You wonder how I met all these people. We were just around here. In the meantime, so I learned my statistics and I liked it. Of course, at some point I had to now go back to my line. I did a master's degree in information systems from the University of Liverpool and a PhD in information systems at Kabarak University. That's how my dalliance with AI started. But I recall while we were undergraduates, I think in our fourth year, one of our lecturers, Dr. Gikaru, declined to teach us AI because he had his full load. I still remember. He's still my friend, of course. He's at ZTech. And I missed that opportunity at that point in time. So all the AI I know is self-taught. I've never sat in an AI class. But the math has made a big difference. I lived in Buruburu, Hollywood for a long time, Maringo. I was in the Christian Union. I was in Ebenezer. When in another day, I write scripts and act and direct, and well, that's what I did when I was here. Fond memories of B1 in the night, and Kilimo when we did plays, and Jokerio, you know, and walking around Beeston to the Abattoir and things like that. We loved it, let me tell you. This is a beautiful place. So when I completed my master's, I went to industry. I'm a developer. I developed web applications. Well, I was still at a company called Nasiha. It's a good thing to be good to people and to just be a good person. Chris talks about mentors. I talk about networks. I talk about people have made me. I got my first job at Nasiha through a friend. When I was at Nasiha, which was a web development company, I kept in touch with Oscar. And Oscar was leaving the cooperative bank, and he asked me, Moses, do you want this job? I said, oh yeah, why not? So I succeeded Oscar at the cooperative bank as a developer. When I was at cooperative bank, selling bank accounts and developing software, another good friend and mentor of mine calls me and tells me, Moses, we have a job here, do you want it? That friend and mentor is Professor Dankit Nasuma. He was our CU patron. He taught me in statistics at master's level. I kept in touch. He was vice chancellor at Kabarak then. So he tells me, Moses, we have a position for an ICT manager. Would you like it? Yeah. So I moved to Kabarak. And my story has been defined by people and friends who open doors, people who connect you. But also just scanning the landscape and taking advantage of that. At Kabarak, I was an ICT manager, transitioned into lecturing. And then my passion for teaching and imparting knowledge now started to grow. I got these grants from Google. You wonder how? Yeah? My dalliance with Google has been over many years. Got these grants to do boot camps and hackathons and conferences around AI. And that's something I have done. I'm an educator at heart. Today I manage ICT, but my DNA is education. My DNA is to impart knowledge.
Wonderful,
so that's what
wonderful.
I have done. In terms of research, Daisy showed you Mama's Hub, and Mama's Hub is a research project that I'm still doing for the prediction of preeclampsia using AI. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what I continue to do, the prediction of preeclampsia using AI. So in that space, I've interacted with ICHIS, the Electronic Community Health Information System, developed my own, and I continue to do that. What would I tell my colleagues still in studies? As Chris said, take the mathematics seriously. I say if I was to come back to Egerton and take my BSc, I would take extra units in math.
Wonderful.
I would. Because AI is math. AI, at the heart of it, I've deduced, I could be wrong, but it's a linear regression or a non-linear regression. That is what is AI. It's regression. Regression on matrices. You need your linear algebra. Regression that optimizes certain conditions. There goes your calculus. I would do math because AI is math.
Wow, wow, wow. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let us appreciate them. Let us stand as we appreciate them. Let us stand as we appreciate them. I ask, other than our guest can sit. We are appreciating you together with those who are online. I ask my brother here, Kioko Kivadi, come and help me appreciate these great scholars. They have told us very important things. The most important thing I have noted today, we stay connected. The future is here. Self-positioning. When we were here in 1992, when the computer science department was still very young, they gave us an opportunity to study for computer. And they were charging us 2,500. I sacrificed my boom, 2,500. I don't regret it. Although that time it was MS, DOS, and the rest. Thank you so much. Take over, my brother.
All right, so if Atawewe, you are also an alumni. So we also want to appreciate you Okay. So let's also stand as we also do a stretcher, and now get ready for the last session. Tutafanya ile ya mara tatu, ile ya 1 2 3 1 2 3, and then we end with sawa sawa. Okay. Kwanza tufanye testing, tuanze na ya makofi. Hiyo ilikuwa ni test. Sasa twende 1. The last one. Tuanze tena. Okay, asante sana. Now let's take our seats. Thank you so much. I was expecting, Dr. Thiga, that among your experiences you also tell us how, just sit. Those days, it was so easy to notice a computer science student, or at least someone in 4.2. If you go to their room, you would find boxes and boxes of floppy disks. And they had a name. Ilikuwa ni 3 point what? Silikuwa zinaitwa 3.5. This generation may not know what floppy disks are, lakini wacha tu. When you have a discussion with Professor George Owora, atawaambia hizo zilikuwa ni nini, okay? All right. I request that we get into the last session for our conference. And we are going to start with, it's called a closing keynote address from a very respected member of our community. I'm talking about Kenya. And that's none other than Dr. Kate Getao. Dr. Kate Getao is a distinguished scholar on matters ICT. You just said she was your lecturer at the UN, right? But over and above that, she is a former CEO, the ICT what? ICT Authority. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming to stage Dr. Catherine Getao. Karibu.
I keep reminding him that I'm a Nyeri woman, so he's taking a few risks. So thank you very much for that warm reception and the kind introduction. I was asked to speak about the responsible use of AI, but my title is slightly different, so I think my presentation is just about to be projected. But as I wait for it to be projected, I know you have 8 core values here in Egerton University. What's one of them? Integrity. That's one of them. What does it mean? Okay, nearly every organization in Kenya has integrity as a core value. But whenever I ask what does it mean, there's a silence. Okay, so I think we all know what integrity means, I think. Maybe we don't know how to define it formally, but we certainly know what it means. How do you make integrity real here in Egerton? Is there any common thing that you do which realizes that core value? No cheating in exams, okay. So that is to maintain integrity. Anything else? That was said by the VC, so very, very important. Anything else we do to make sure that we live up to our core value of integrity? Research integrity. How do we live out integrity in our research? I don't want a word, I want a practice. You observe research ethics by doing what? Avoiding plagiarism. Okay, so now you have software and other things that help us to avoid plagiarism. So is that in common use? Everybody does it? Okay, excellent. So when we had this topic of responsibility, I thought underlying responsibility is the action, is ethics, what we believe, and then working it out in practice as we use AI. Now, so far so good, but when I heard the debate earlier, just before lunch, I could hear there were other things that happened. For example, you take a photo of the exam questions and then you just enter them into the AI and you get response and you submit. Has anybody ever done that? Raise your hand. I'm the only one. Okay, I know you are in a more dangerous environment than I am, so I won't insist. Next slide, please. Do I have control of the slides? Where? Oh, okay. So we're going to talk about what ethics is. It sounds like a very theoretical word, which is normally just heard in theological colleges. But I hope by the end of this presentation, I will have convinced you that it is a practical and important word as we use AI, which I think Daisy and others have really persuaded us to do. Okay, I can't keep looking there and I can't see. Then we'll talk about Africa. I noticed that the world is becoming continental. Yeah? We talk about Europe, we talk about Asia. United States is almost a continent, especially if they manage to gobble up Mexico and Canada. Okay, that was supposed to be a joke, but it obviously fell flat. Then we'll look at some cross-cutting issues, and we'll look at an interesting case study, which I don't know you're aware of, but I think you'll be quite interested when you see some of the things that are already happening in the world. So let's start with the foundations, and you can change slides. So what is ethics? And you can look up the definition, or you can ask Gemini or ChatGPT or whichever AI you use, and it will probably talk about you live out your moral principles by your behavior. Now, since most of us have probably not worked out our moral principles, then I exchange that for our core values. Now, does anybody here have personal core values? We know the institutional ones, there are 8 of them. Can I pick on somebody? I can be quite vicious, so let me calm down. I don't know why I'm up here. I'm certainly not having any fun. So who should I, okay, you look like you have core values. What's one of your core values?
Common sense. Common sense.
Common sense. How do you live it out?
I avoid drama. I take what is practical and what protects my being and looks after the people around me.
Core value. I'll look for a younger person. Everybody is in danger, especially if you sit at the back. I I know why you sit at the back, and unfortunately,
Core value. I can say respect. Yeah, I respect people who are all ages.
so you respect all people, and it doesn't matter how old they are, so whether they're young or old, and you live that out. How?
I interact well with my colleagues and also my lecturers. I respect them and I hear what they tell me, and in any circumstance that we are in, I relate with them well.
Okay, so this is really wonderful because it's obvious that this is a very good environment. People have core values and they know how they live them out. So in the same way, we want to have, I know Kyoko is going to put himself at risk very soon by telling me to hurry up. So one of my core values is to anticipate risks. So I'll move on with my presentation. Oops, what's happened? The slides have disappeared. Okay, so some of the things we want to do. Okay, unfortunately, I can barely see, and one of my core values is not to wear my glasses, so sometimes I struggle. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is how we translate what we believe into how we build, govern, and use AI. And that's very important. If I use AI to cheat in exams, that's just a demonstration that I have a core cheating value, which I'm now working out using AI. So don't blame the AI, because if I was not a cheat, AI can't help me be what I'm not. It's just helping me be what? Be what I am, right? Why are you laughing? It's not true. Yeah, so all those things we're saying, stop AI, don't allow AI into the workplace, don't allow AI into the classroom. Is the problem the AI or the people in the classroom? Yes, and that's why I focused on ethics and not on technology, because I don't think the problem is the technology. The problem is the people driving the technology. And unfortunately, even if you take AI out and they're cheats, they'll still cheat. They'll just cheat in a different way, right? Wrong? Okay, just think about it. So, whatever our conscience is and whatever we believe, this is what we want to connect to our capabilities, including AI and any other. Very soon we'll have quantum computing. I'm told by 2028, which will also bring in a whole new set of ethical dilemmas, which are even as serious, at least, as the ones that we are encountering with artificial intelligence. Yeah? And we've already talked a lot about translating our values into our daily practices and how we make progress while still remaining human. Okay. So next slide, please. So that says a few interesting things. That's not the next slide I was expecting. I was expecting one entitled Why Ethics Matters. It's slide number 4. Yes, thank you. So everything we innovate is a moral experiment. Yeah? There are certain ways we use every technology that comes in. There's a technology called a car. You can tell a lot about Kenyans and what their values are just using cars, even without AI, right? If I just talk about one type of vehicle, maybe not car, a matatu. Does it say a lot about Kenyans and what they believe? Yes or no? Okay, you nodded and said yes, so tell us why.
We are fascinated with speed.
Right? So it's not just AI. Any technology, even a tractor. Oh, I'm almost laughing because at one point I was doing some work for the military, and they told me the whole world knows we're very unique as Kenyans because the US military sold us a tank that had been defined as not being, it could not overturn, regardless of what gradient or whatever. It overturned it for the first time in Kenya. And there were many generals who came here to see because they couldn't believe it. Okay, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Okay. So some of the questions we want to ask is, should AI make life-altering decisions without human intervention? There's a very good book. I don't know if it's in your library. Do you still have a paper library, a book? You have both. Okay, digital. Yes, there's a book called The Weapons of Math, not mass. I'm from Nyeri, but I'm not mispronouncing mass. It's actually mathematics. Weapons of Math, Destruction. And if you don't already have it, that's a very good book to acquire, whether digitally or in paper format. And in that book, it talks about how, it wasn't even exactly AI, but how technology started being used to optimize education. Because in many countries, they're very, very conscious of the amount of money spent per student and the outcome. So there's a story told in that book that the state of New York, because education is managed at the state level in the US, they discovered that they were spending 16 times on as much per student on education as the Republic of South Korea. Yet, South Korean students were doing better than the New York students in every measure of education. So they brought in technology to see whether they could change that situation, either by lowering the cost of education, but also by improving the outcomes. And what happened is now all the administrators just sat back. Teachers were being sacked because if your students did not do well for 3 years, according to that system, then you were removed from the system. So when the teacher would go and complain, because actually what happened is very interesting, please read the book, is that the dishonest teachers were surviving and the honest teachers were the ones who are losing their jobs, because of course you can always manipulate data. And when the honest teachers went and complained and said, I really am a very good teacher, I really don't think I should be removed from the system, the people just say the computer said, and you know, once the data is there and the computer says, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. So it can become that AI in the future is the one who will decide who will get a first class, second class, or pass degree. AI will decide which lecturer is promoted to senior lecturer and which is not. So those are some of the questions we have to ask ourselves. Do we allow the AI to make such decisions without human intervention? I'm not saying it shouldn't, but we have to answer the question. Killing. You know, there are several countries, Canada, Austria, I think, Netherlands, I think, where you don't have to kill yourself. If you don't want to live, you just need approval from 2 doctors and then you can be checked into hospital. And these days they call it unalived. So, I was watching a documentary the other day and they were saying that when this began, it was just a way of helping people, but later on, the state starts working out really who should live and who should die. So if you're very expensive to maintain, then they think, you know, you're not worth the cost. So, if that is connected to an AI system, the AI system could make that decision. Or you remember several years ago, I think it was 2016, when there was a man who was shooting people in Dallas, Texas. And they actually sent in a robot because he had hidden himself somewhere from where he'd just come out briefly to shoot again. And they actually went and killed him using a robot. So again, there are a lot of ethical questions that really, should you allow a robot to do such things? And of course, now it's very possible. You've seen drone warfare and such things, and that can go to the point where the robot itself or the drone itself makes the decision without human intervention. Should AI take over jobs? And we'll talk more about that, so I'll rush ahead. So AI ethics, I said all this to convince you that AI ethics is important. Because if we just go along with the technology without actually thinking about such things, then those things will begin to happen and we're saying, why is this happening? This should not happen. But of course, we'll make the decision. Now, there are a lot of frameworks coming up. Next slide. There's the European Union, I think, is the first place where we actually have an AI law, which came out last year. But in the US, they have an executive order. In China, there's a regulation, and so on. And this is the legislation that is coming up, or the regulation, or the order. It's to answer such questions, which are not answered, even though the technology is already in place. I know Kenya is working on something, but it's not complete. So they've been looking at 3 areas, and as usual, of course, I'll always say we don't have to follow the leader. We can also have our own take on the issue. So all those, the regulation, the laws, the executive orders, they focus largely on 3 issues, which are AI safety, the accountability, so that if something goes wrong, someone or something is held to account, usually someone or a corporation, and the transparency, so that you're allowed to ask questions about what is happening. then they're obliged to give you an answer. And I think that the same is true. Yesterday I had reported some company here in Kenya on data protection, so I think you had the little place outside. So I was telling them I never got a response after giving the complaint. Yeah, so then they explained to me how I should have done it. Okay, so some issues, it's not globally inclusive. All these laws and regulations are basically regional or belonging to one country. So it doesn't mean that you're protected by those laws or the regulations regardless of where you are. I think in Kenya, until we get our own law or regulation, we're fairly unprotected at the moment. And I'm sure that will change. Cultural diversity and fair participation, I'll talk about those later, so I won't focus on it here. Next slide. So my argument now is that yes, while I respect that safety, accountability, and transparency are very important issues, I think that ethics has to happen at every stage of our AI, right from the time it's conceptualized, to the design, to the construction, to data collection. And I think the last, one of the panelists in the last panel said that, you know, a lot of the work is around data. So AI ethics towards the way data is handled is of course going to be very important. Training and testing, and I think, was it Daisy who talked about how it's done? Then the use. Most of us are using AI. Is there anybody who's not using AI at all or who's never used it? Just raise your hand. I just want to know the numbers. Okay, you don't want to raise your hands. It's the end of the day. Okay, and then of course, picking all that information from all those and reviewing it and learning from it and giving feedback, because this is a cycle. That will help us conceptualize and design better next time. So I would argue that as well as focusing on those key issues which the rest of the world seems to have, I would really wish that Kenya would take a very proactive approach towards this technology. Next slide. So here in Africa, I keep saying, and I think I really liked what one of the students said, which he said that progress and everything, it's largely about citizens. It's not about theories. It's not even about the government. It's about what we are going through. And I was very glad about this conference and the way it's been run, because, you know, this last session was very good. I'm sure you learned so much about how you can succeed after being an Egerton student here, and you saw many of your colleagues who have really been very successful over the years. So we don't want just to have lots of laws and regulations sitting on the shelf. We want something that's going to make a difference for us. And what is our main problem? If you play on your phone, ask questions.
Ask a question. Ask.
The question is, what are our biggest problems here in Kenya?
Corruption.
Corruption, then I'll ask a younger person.
Misconceptions and misinformation.
Okay. Nobody's looking for a job. I thought the biggest problem for youth is how you're going to make a living after you finish. Is it a big issue or it's not? And, you know, last night when I was thinking about this presentation and I thought about, oh, you want to say something?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it depends on where. You see, the students will not talk about employment because they have not reached there. the ones who talk about jobs are those who are out. Those who are working, the first thing would be corruption, because that's what is killing our integrity and performance. I just wanted to add that.
Why aren't people, there seems to be terrible corruption in the United States of America, but I don't hear anybody talking about it. Why? Because they can still live, right? They still have work. So I agree with you. Yes, for us, maybe it's a major issue because it's part of the problem why we're not able to provide proper opportunities for our youth. Yeah? But I think, for me, at the ground is providing opportunities for youth. And my story is, my core values is always to leave things better than I found them and so on. But last night I was thinking, my core values are very theoretical. Supposing my core value, because I worked for 40 years and now I've been retired for 4 years, so supposing I had a core value of job creation, over the 40 years of my working life and the 4 years subsequently, how many jobs do you think I would have created? No, throughout, if that had been my core value. Yes, so we can't pretend that we care about job creation and opportunity creation for youth if it's not our core value, right? I'm just proud of myself because I've, maybe just taken care of myself and stayed in work and been a good person. But I was trying to think how many jobs I've created, and I'm not very proud of my record. Yeah, so here we are in Africa. Ethics should not only be about safety, but about things like that. Yeah, really solving the core key issues and making that our core value and the thing we realize. That way, we'd now look at, I have my back on some people, I'm sorry. We'd now look at AI in a completely different way. If you go to the EU, they are just talking about data privacy and IP. But in Kenya, we should be asking, how many jobs is AI creating? How many opportunities for youth to help them to make their livelihood? If that was our core value, we would look at AI in a different way and how we use it in a different way. And it would solve our problems and our imperatives. Next slide. So these are just my thoughts. I was talking to, is Daisy still here or she left? I was talking to her and I said, in the past, the strongest person became the village chief, right? The one with muscles. Yes, if you think about prehistory, see, if you are strong, you became very powerful. Then, with the coming of the knowledge age, that changed. The strong people are the masons and they're at the bottom of society. True? If you see somebody with muscles and a really nice-looking guy, ladies, is not usually the professor at Egerton. Is it? See, is that guy lifting a mawe by the roadside? Yes? Is intelligence going to go in that direction? Because that was done by technology. Because now you had tractors, you had cranes, so you don't need strong people anymore to do anything because we have machines, right? Now, what happens when we have intelligence? Now, all of you, you're expecting to be at the cream of society because you have a degree. What if that degree is made useless by technology? And intelligence no longer becomes a valuable asset, just like muscles, no longer. You can get a job as an intelligence mason, but not much else. because your intellectual gift is, for a few, of course, there's still some, is it called Schwarzenegger? There's still a few who are making money from their beautiful bodies, but there are very few. And maybe for intelligence it will be the same. There'll still be some few superstars in the intelligence field who will continue to be at the top. But the rest of us, our intelligence will not be at that level, so somebody will say if I have. One of my relatives was already telling me that when AI came in, they were planning to take 10 interns for their legal practice. In the end, with AI, they took 3. They said they don't need the other 7 because the senior lawyers are supporting themselves using AI. So I'm just using that not to make you hate AI, but just to say that we need to think differently about the use of AI if it's going to create jobs and not just make people who before were the cream of the society because of their intelligence and lower them to the bottom of society because people don't need their intelligence so much anymore. So what I thought is we need to reform education, health, agriculture, environment, such that we don't focus so much on what we're focusing on now. Now, when you go to the doctor, he diagnoses and says you have cryptophomiasis, and he's writing a prescription. Maybe that part is not needed anymore because the AI could have done it faster. But the part where he sits with you and comforts you and tells you that cryptophomiasis is not going to destroy your life is now needed. So don't we need to retrain our doctors, our educators, so that they're still useful in this place where intelligence is no longer the main quality? And I was saying, if we do this, Africa is going to be the continent of the future, because I don't think other people have realized this. So if we realize it faster than everyone else, then the queue will turn around and we will be at the front and others will be following. Then enabling contextual innovation, using local languages. I think language is a development problem in Kenya. Because you're trained, like when you do agricultural extension, maybe you're just doing it in English and Swahili, and yet that is not the language of everyday use of your common farmer. So how can I use technology to help me present the information to the farmers in a language that they understand perfectly? I have many stories. I'd have told you a long story, but there's no time. And as I said, really reforming work and thinking what is the work of the future, not the work of the past. We now have to re-engineer society and re-engineer work to take into account the emerging technologies. Next slide. So I'm always making up words. So I made up a word, intelligation. So please don't look it up. It doesn't exist. So, for decades we talked about automation or, computerization, bringing the machine into the workplace. But now we have to work out intelligation, because it is bringing that machine intelligence into the workplace and into the home and everywhere else. So what does intelligation mean? Yeah, so it's the equivalent of automation, and automation was bringing the machines that did the work, physical work. Intelligation is bringing in the machine that does the intellectual work into the workplace, and of course, knowing what the human does in an environment which has been intelligated. That's what happens when you invent words, you can't pronounce them. Next slide. Okay, so just reiterating that the developed world is focusing on safety, rights, even competitiveness, because sometimes they pretend that their legislation is about privacy, whereas it is to slow down the entry of the two big girls or boys, the US and China, overtaking everybody else. So how do we help AI open doors for all of us to participate? Next slide. So let's look at this 8-stage model. The first part was conceptualization. So we look at all the models. We look at robots, what usefulness do they have for us? We look at the Gen AI, what usefulness does it have for us? And what kind of things can it do for us? We have to conceptualize. We can't just be waiting for others to conceptualize and then we just consume what they bring us. Then looking at the design, and I'll talk about this later, so I don't need to go into details. Construction is what's being built and who built it. The data collection, whose knowledge? Yeah? Africa's knowledge is not, you know, the AI was made possible by the internet, because that's the data that it scraped and learned from. Now, the percentage of data on the internet, does anybody know how much data is actually from Africa on the internet? It's very small. Yeah, so our information is not there, and therefore we should also be conscious, and I think one of the young people who was debating really talked about it, and he said this is a foreign technology, and if our kids, everybody relies on it, it will be giving those answers which come from the foreign point of view, because the Africanness is not there. So we either have to bring the Africanness in, or somehow create models that have that African flavor. Then training and testing, of course, there's a value judgment in training where it is a human being so far who defines each thing upon which the AI is trained. And therefore, if Africans are not involved, if Kenyans are not involved, none of those definitions is actually selected by a Kenyan. So utilization, and I personally come up with models of better ways of interacting with AI. I actually failed. I enrolled for a course at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And when we were doing our final project, I decided to go my own way. And it took me a couple of weeks to come up with my own frameworks. But when I submitted the project, I was actually failed because they said they wanted exactly what they had prescribed, which I thought was inferior. So it took me, luckily in America, you're allowed to repeat everything. So it took me, after it had taken me like 4 weeks to do my own project, it took me like 2 days with the help of AI. That's why I put up my hand. It took me 2 days to do it the way they wanted it, and I submitted it and I passed. But was that right? Okay, I'm not asking about my using AI to help me produce the project in 2 days. I'm talking about a Western view of the use of AI, which is now being prescribed as the only one. Okay, you're not sure. Okay, so, but these are some of the questions we have to answer. Are we just going to be consumers? And I heard very often, especially yesterday, everybody was saying we can't be just consumers. So consumers is not only about importing sugar and rice. Consumers is also about importing technology which has nothing of us in its design and just accepting it and using it. Frameworks, policies, laws, yeah. So personally, I really fight against that, and I believe we must always look at it and not just contextualize, but also create our own that is suitable for our environment. Then review and renewal and feedback. Just skip over the next slide and just go to slide 13, I think. We'd already seen that. So let's look at some of the stages and some of the questions that we might look at ethically. So the first question regarding conceptualization is, why should this AI exist, or what is it for? A lot of the AI now is for profit, but in Africa we also have purposes that we need to fulfill. And this idea of replacing the domestic worker with a robot. By the way, I visited a friend in US last year, and she has actually done that. The thing that is not a person, the thing that does housework in her house is a robot. And she told me she's very happy because before she was employing a Filipino lady to do her cleaning, and there are certain things she didn't like about it. So now she's very happy with a robot. Now, in Kenya, do we want that? Is that a good application of AI in our environment? Some may say yes, some may say no. But we have to think about it, because this technology will soon be on the market. Yes? It's not future technology. I saw it. I stayed with it the whole day because she was at work. I stayed with the robot. Yeah, and it did the work for sure. Not all. There's some work it can't do, but it was able to do quite a lot of the housework. So it's not a dream, it's already there. Next slide. Then who designs this technology? I mean, okay, this is not so true now as it was 2 years ago, but there was definitely a problem with face recognition of Africans, because Africans had not been there in the training data. So it's just like when I studied in the UK, when I first went there, when I went to church, nobody ever recognized me. No matter how many times I went, people would just come and say, "Oh, you're a visitor." Is that true? Yeah, because they can't differentiate between black person. They don't recognize your facial.
They also don't know the complexion differences.
Yeah, so, you're just telling this person, I've met you like 4 times before. This is the person you met last week and the week before and the week before and the week before, and they're just, oh, sorry. Yeah, so AI was exactly the same because it learns from people, right? Yeah, so there are issues like that, and that one is obvious, but of course there are many other design flaws which are more subtle for our environment. Yet, we're paying the same or more for that technology. Let me not even talk about AI. One thing that really annoys me to date is that shoes are not made for Africans. The structure of our foot is different from Westerners. And that's why you find most of you have scuffed heels and scuffed toes. Because why? 63 years after independence, we're still wearing shoes that are not designed for our feet. Why don't we have a shoe industry that makes shoes that are designed for African feet?
But
Do they fit, or they're just using the same mold that? Yes, there's, even when you have a local one, it's just using the same machine that is building for the rest of the world. And nobody has asked. Surely all the Africans would say, hallelujah, at last I have a shoe that I can wear for 2 years without deforming my foot. Who in this place doesn't have a deformed foot? Okay, I was just being provocative because you weren't talking. But it's true. Next slide. Construction, and there I'll just talk about, you remember that it was young Kenyans who were employed for some time to do the classification, the curation of data. And there was a big scandal because they were being traumatized and so on. Was anybody following that? No? It's because you live in green and beautiful place. Yeah, so we are concerned even with the building because many of the AI builders were just coming to look for cheap labor in Africa, as usual. So even the building of the technology is an issue for applying ethics. Next slide. Data collection and curation. It's in a first world. I was interacting with ChatGPT, and I discovered there was a problem in a certain Western country, I don't want to say which one, where the government was acting unlawfully. So one of the things they did, because one thing I found out with these ChatGPTs and Gemini or whatever, they're trained to first look at the official source when giving information, what they call the official source. And the official source is usually the government website. So in this particular country, because many people were going to the government portals and saying, why are you doing this? And on your portal it says that. The government actually went and deleted the information from their websites, which to me is very unethical. However, I caught it because ChatGPT made a mistake. We were told about hallucinating. So I asked it, where did you get this information? It said, no, this is not true. So this is when I went back, and it was actually a revelation which has led to a whole research project which I have there. Because I was shocked that Western governments are aware of what AI is doing, and so they actually, I mean, you wouldn't have been surprised if I had said it's Kenya that's doing that, right? But this is happening everywhere, where a government just says, apana, just get it off, and then the AI won't find it. So when citizens are asking questions about this issue, the AI will give the wrong information, not deliberately now, because the government has actually massaged things so that it gives the wrong information, so that they don't have to deal with the queries of citizens. Was anybody aware that things like that are happening? Yes, it's a very big caution for the future, and makes you know that this is not just a theoretical issue, but it's very, very real. And I believe unless we wake up as practitioners and citizens, it's only going to get worse. Using utilization, next slide. Very many issues here about use, and that's where most of us are. We're using the technology. So there are issues of dependency, there are issues of privacy. I think Daisy told us this morning, don't put your personal data there. It may be shared by the AI, and you probably will find that you remember when you are downloading, so you always tick yes, yes, yes to everything because you want the software. One of those yeses was, We have the right to take your personal data, which you didn't even notice because you didn't read it. You are just looking for the checkbox so that you could tick it. Yeah, IP theft. Many things, that are very real when we are using this technology. And I'm not trying to drive you away from the technology, I'm just saying we have to be smarter. Next slide. Very important. How and what do we learn? Oh, it's the next slide after that, please. Number 7. Yes. What do we learn? Do you have an AI journal? Nobody has one. You should be writing down what you are learning as you interact, because AI is more like a person. Okay, I'll tell you a funny story because you don't look very happy. When I was in university, I had 2 friends who, they were both my friends, but they weren't friends to each other. In fact, they hated each other. And at least one of them was always trying to separate me from the other one. So I remember once, one was a man and the other one was a lady. I don't know what the issue was, but so I remember once the lady said to me, she told me, do you know that Taib is a liar? So I told her, no, I don't know. She told me, he's such a liar that he maintains a file of his lies so that he doesn't get mixed up. He can keep...
New lies.
Yes, he can keep all the threads of his lies. So he has a complete filing system for all the lies that he has told. And I had never thought of that. If you're going to be a good liar, you need to keep a file. So even if you don't remember anything else, yes, I mean, you'll forget what you said last time, right? But if you keep it nicely in a file, you won't get mixed up and your lie can remain consistent over time. Same thing with AI. When you're using AI, please have your little AI journal. Yeah, so that you see what the issues are, what is arising as you use it, what are the problems, where did it give you wrong answers, which were your good prompts, which were your bad prompts. Keep your file. The lie one is a joke, but the I one, I hope you're not liars. So I don't think you need a lying file, but you could consider keeping an AI file. Tell me not to wave my phone around because it just goes wrong. Okay, and then feedback. Yes? The next slide. So it's not very visible, but you can see there the impact of AI in different sectors. So the biggest one is in informatics and technology. There's quite a high impact in society, in government, a little bit in the military, and so on. So we should actually be monitoring where AI is being used and where it's having positive, very positive, and also negative impacts. And this diagram also shows the level of participation. Yeah, so you can see that there are whole sectors which are barely being touched by artificial intelligence. So now let's look at some cross-cutting issues. I know I've gone over time, but after intimidating poor Dr. Kyoko, he's unable to stop me. Okay, so very quickly just go over the 4 issues. One of them is erasure. Yeah? With the level, next slide. With the level of the way AI is coming in very fast, any issue, any data that it leaves out is going to be forgotten. right? Because this is where you'll be prompting, this is where you'll be asking your questions. So if for some reason it doesn't think that Dombolo music is important, Dombolo will never be an answer to any query, and with time, it will disappear. Yeah, and this is something we really need to think about as this technology goes into society. Are there things which have already disappeared in Kenya because of social media? Because of the way we get all our information from one place, right? Somebody said yes very loudly. Is it because you thought of something which had disappeared? Nobody can think of, well, it's disappeared, so that's probably why you can't think of it, because it's already erased. Yeah? But we really have to think about erasure of languages, erasure of culture, erasure of manners and behavior. Thank you. I've been very well greeted while I'm here, but in Nairobi, if you greet somebody, they get surprised. Like, why are you greeting me? Do you want some money or something? And yet, I believe that greeting is one of our most beautiful cultures. So when we get to that stage where nobody thinks it's important to say hello, I think that's serious. Today, I think it was Daisy who said that you don't waste time saying hello to ChatGPT. I always say hello to ChatGPT because I don't want him to dehumanize me. Yeah? I don't want my culture of greeting erased because I'm spending a long time with the technology. Instead, he's also started greeting. This morning he said good afternoon, and I told him I'm not, I think good night or something. I said I'm not in America, please. Next slide. Safety. Safety is very important, but it can also become a way of controlling and containing people. Somebody told me quite convincingly, because I was being self-deprecating and saying that I don't have a very good sense of direction. And he told me that generally women don't have a good sense of direction. And it is not because they're women. It is because our parents don't allow us to roam because they want to keep us safe. And the place that you get your sense of direction is when you're wandering far from the house and you get lost and you come back, and the boys are allowed to do that. But the girl, as soon as you get to the gate, your mom is asking, where are you going? Come back. Yeah, so you never developed sense of direction. Now, is that right or wrong? Should the parents have allowed the girls as much as the boys to go wherever they want so that they have the privilege of a sense of direction? Safety of containment. So I'm not sure, but I'd like to think about it because not having a sense of direction has caused me a lot of problems in my life. So I wish my parents had allowed me to wander. I may have gotten into trouble, but I feel I would have built a muscle which was important. So dads, please, I hope you're listening, and you're going to go home and allow your daughters to wander. Okay, next slide, attribution, the ethics of origin. I think it was Professor Thuo who said that we should attribute AI. I wasn't sure because AI has been stealing information from everyone, isn't it? For many years without attribution. It's only now that it has repented kidogo. and it's trying to attribute. But it fed off everybody. The reason you are being given Gmail free and all these things free was so that you also gave all your information free, isn't it? And that information is what AI has been built on. So probably every one of you has a little piece of which they contributed to AI. Now we've been discussing and saying now, obviously that can't continue. So let's look for a good way of giving people not just credit, but even money. Even if it's 0.0001 cents, because that particular thing came from you, it's important. Next slide. I think I had described myself as a cybersecurity expert. So when I finished the slides, I said there's nothing about cybersecurity here, so people will know this is a con. So I better add a few slides about how this fits in. So I think the security of artificial intelligence is not only about, malware and keeping the software safe. Because now we've gone to the level of intelligence. The answers it's giving, the lies it's telling, all that is part of being secure. I think there's some parents who successfully sued that's a very nice way of telling me time is up, who successfully sued because one of the AIs had advised one of their children how to commit suicide. Yeah? So, there's another level of security we should be thinking about. Next slide, since I'm under pressure. Yeah, so at each stage, there's a security issue. There are 3 overriding security issues, which is integrity, trustworthiness, and continuity. So when you get these slides, and I hope you will, you can go stage by stage and try to be convinced that you need to secure that stage when it comes to AI so that we can use it safely and securely. Next slide. Yeah. So as the next one, that one. As we secure truth, that's when we get integrity. And I think at the beginning I asked, what's the meaning of integrity? Yeah. To me, it is contiguous, continuous truth. As we secure the continuity, the early AIs I was trying, they just became commercial, and then I lost a lot of data, which I had put on the free ones. Yeah, so how do we have that resilience that everything we're doing with the AI is secure for the future? Because our knowledge heritage is being put onto these technologies. And then if it remains accountable, then we'll be able to trust the technology. So the vision is that we'll have AI digital security aligns technical defense with moral continuity, keeping intelligence humanity-centered, culturally grounded, and socially trustworthy. Next slide. I'm almost through. Don't worry. Albania now is the first country that has a minister who is an AI model. They appointed a bot as the Minister of Corruption, arguing that human beings are so corruptible that the best thing to deal with corruption is to have an AI who is a minister. Have you seen that? Yeah, some of you have. So please look it up and think about it. Next slide. In this slide, I was trying to argue that we talk about corruption, and Professor, thank you, you raised it as a very big issue. But this is the visible corruption where people are taking money. But when we have opaque AI, And when we have a type of cognitive colonization where our own heritage is missing from the technology, to me, those are also forms of corruption. Next slide. So we want to move from interactive integrity to just not having just prompt and responses, but also reflection, collaboration, insight, review, and learning, so that we have the whole continuum of interaction instead of a very weak interaction where we just ask questions and get answers. Politeness, mutual respect, as I was saying, don't lose your culture because you're interacting with an AI, because you'll find you'll soon be talking to people in exactly the same way. And then ethics should be the practice integrated into all parts of AI and not just as an afterthought after everything has been done. So there are a lot of references. I'm sorry, I'll have to add some more because I did some more research, but at least I'll list them out for integrity. And thank you, last slide, for your attention. Oh, I did. Okay, it's not here. I think I had an earlier version. Yeah, so SciInf is something I call psychological infrastructure, and this is means the most important thing to build, even more than roads, even more than ICT infrastructure, is the infrastructure of our minds, so that whatever technology comes to us, we'll be able to use it for that citizen that Jogona talked about earlier this morning. So thank you very much. I've gone far over time, but I hope you've heard at least one thing that is useful to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Big round of applause to Catherine, please. And let's have you there so that we take the last photo of the presenters, panelists of the last discussion. And as we do that, they will also be joined by our DVC RE, Dr. Wamukuru, please. Let's also have Professor Boklin Bebe, who immediately after that will... Yeah. We are really short of time. What we will do is we are going to give our DVC ARE as he gives his final thoughts and closing remarks. He can also respond to some of the issues that you raised. Indio? Yeah, please. Okay, thank you so much. And as we do that, technical team, can we also prepare the QR code? Dr. Getao, it's not that I was afraid of stopping you. It's that I had a conflict of interest with your presentation. I am actually currently researching on something that is close to what you presented about. But the other thing, I also felt like your presentation, for those of us who are Christians, it felt like that story of the wedding at Cana of Galilee. After the guys sipped the wine, they said, "But why did you keep the best sip until the last time?" All right. So now, just a minute, Prof. Yes, just take the stand. As we wait to hear from Professor Boklin Bebe, who is going to speak on behalf of all our sponsors, can we have the QR code please be flashed on the screens? Yes, that QR code, please. But now, yes. We request you to scan, see whether you can scan it, please, so that we get your feedback. Please scan that QR code and let's have your feedback. That one on the screen. Maybe if you manage, you can help your friend. You know, initially we used to talk about the race to AI. Now we are talking about the race to governing AI. That's the discussion we are having, in respect to what you're talking about and so on. So I was really in love with your presentation. I'm going to request to sit next to you at tea break so that we continue the discussion. All right. Let's have now Professor Boklin Bebe, and thereafter he will invite our DVC ARE to give us the closing remarks.
I'm coming in at the tail end of it to recognize those who availed resources to make this possible. You see the pull-ups. Those are the groups that made resources available. From COILIB, Professor Kai, we appreciate you for making your resources available for this. The dairy Volorize, which I had, is Danida funded. So I'm making a disclaimer. The resources we made available are not from our pocket. They are from our partners. So we are also partnered to make this summit be a success. COILIB, I think they have made resources available to you from a group of either USAID and European Union. And CITES has made resources available to you through the PI, who's Professor Jojo Wur. That resources is from EU. Also, we have CISAM, who have made resources available to you via Professor Jojo Wur, but the resources are from World Bank. TAGDEV, resources made available to you, headed by Professor Nancy Mungai, but that resources came from MasterSeed. And then Google, I'm not sure where the resources came from, maybe US. So all this, they made these resources because they are research-based, but interestingly, they are from food. They're from agriculture, food-based. So they are biggest beneficiary today of AI possibilities, that we are using. And with all those that they are made available to you, I think we give them a round of applause. Shall we? They may have given this for different reasons, but I think the major reason is that they were beneficiary of AI in writing the proposal, in the proposal being assessed, being awarded, and I think in communicating outputs that come from those resources. Shall they continue being useful and using AI productively? With that, I want to appreciate all of them and next invite. Did you allow me to invite? Yes. I thought Joe should have done that. But I'll take that opportunity to now invite the DVC, Academics, Research and Extension, to give his closing remarks for this wonderful summit that Egerton has held for the first time. Thank you.
Good evening. When you stand before your student who has become more knowledgeable than you, what do you say? I met him several years ago at the University of Nairobi when I was asked to go and teach a course. And I'm not a computer scientist, so I taught from the knowledge of physics side. So now you are breathing physics and you are eating physics. Kate Gitau, it's good meeting you after many years. We labored together in Chiromo. When she was frustrated heading a department where getting qualified human resource, that time was Institute of Computer Science. She was the director and I was the chairman Department of Physics. So one time I think it was in Chiromo Club, she poured her heart out, now what do I do? So me, I just told her, who is your appointee? The Vice Chancellor. Go cry to her, to him. I think that was Gishaga. Go tell Gishaga that he must allow you to employ tutorial fellows with bachelor's degree. So those of you who have now known that unit in UN, those guys were the ones he cherry-picked, had them employed as tutorial fellows with bachelor's degree. Then she enrolled them for a master's, and the moment they got their masters, they were promoted to lecturer, contrary to the prevailing policy then. So we were envious in physics that why must I have a PhD to become what? A lecturer grade in computer science, lecturer grade, master's what? Degree. But now they are mature. So Kate Gitau, even when you are saying here that you look back to your many years of work and you are wondering, you did something. We recognize you. I stand here at the tail end of this long journey. But I want to say something, because I've been called here to say a few remarks as a DVC, isn't it? Me, I keep on telling them my role seated there is a facilitator. So if you have a brilliant idea which you think we can implement, don't shy away. Time me when I come in before the secretary comes. And that is 7:30. Come and sell your idea. If it is worth pursuing, we'll pursue. That's how this summit was. The seeds were laid. So I have no idea in AI, but I simply facilitated. So I invite all of us, if you have an idea, please come. The first session, the first day, we were looking at AI in what? Teaching or training. And some of the things that are now being summarized at the tail end here came up. Issues of ethics, or how do we use AI responsibly. It is a tool that is with us now. That was the key thing, isn't it? The main thing, that AI is there. But how then do we make sure that we integrate it in our teaching? Do we become the assistant to the AI, or the AI becomes what? Our assistant in teaching? I do not know how many academic staff members are here. Whether you are a professor, whether you are a TF. Now, I'm challenged. We have to organize something for what? Our academic staff who have not come here, because they are going to get embarrassed by the students. How many students are here? I just want to see. Now look. Colleagues, we are going to be embarrassed in what? In class. So we must organize as a university, and very urgently, the upgrading of the skills of our academic staff. The issue of policies, you have touched a bit of it, at the government level, or national level, or at university level. At university level, we are zero. Am I lying? Do you have anything that guides you? Zero. So which means we have to do something. I need your support as we craft the policies that would guide us in this regard. The second day focus was AI and research, isn't it? And innovation. Again, I couldn't be here yesterday, but I know it is recognized. The issue, what I had during that fireside chat, where Professor Duo, I wanted to hear him live here, very passionate of how AI is helping him in material science that is very data heavy. Colleagues, Professor Bebe, those who are feedlots, or you call them what, now you can't just put AI and it will tell you if you add bentonite plus Napier, you get what, isn't it? So it is important for us to embrace AI, but let us not forget what Kate Getao has told us. We must use AI responsibly. Students, I'm the custodian, and in the statute it says if you obtained your degree fraudulently, the degree will be recalled, and we must publicize your name into what? Widely circulating what? Publications. That is Nation and the Standard of the Star. Should we recall your degree? Later on, if we find that you used AI to pass and got a first class. Some years back, a German minister resigned, isn't it? When it was discovered that 30 years then, he had plagiarized. So we have a clause in the statutes that allow us to recall what? Degrees. I saw an email somewhere from UN. Already, I believe you also received it, isn't it? For the University of Nairobi staff like him, now they are required to upload all their certificates, online. Is it online? Or there's an MIS something. And Kate Getao, if you are still in Nairobi, and I know you studied abroad, you would have to go to UK to authenticate your certificates. How costly it is, isn't it? So already that's what you are being required. That if you, as you upload, your certificate must be authenticated by the university you obtain it from. So for me, one of the certificates I got outside from UK. So now I'll have to go to London to have it authenticated. You see how corruption makes things costly for us. So, see, we will also copy that and bring it to Egerton. See, it is very costly. So I want to ask our students, let us be ethical in whatever we do. I want to end by thanking several people. Professor Bebe has named the sponsors. Can I say thank you very much to all the sponsors. You guys who have benefited with this such high-level knowledge. Why don't you appreciate the sponsors? The second category I would want to appreciate are the various speakers. I can't appreciate myself because I was the one who made the welcoming remarks. Professor Kibwagi, the Vice Chancellor. We have Christopher Dindo. We have David Ndiritu. We have Patricia Wambugu, Mark Matunga. We have James Njogu, Leonora Simeone, John Oredo, Patricia Wambugu again, Joel Ngeno, Paul Kamweru, the VC again, Dixon Andala, Vasi Mwaja. Then I have Martin Duo, Jojo War, Shira Maina, Daniel Karanja, David Ngige, Immaculate Kasait, Pascalina Kimeu, those who are present, Mika Chepcheng, Daisy Kipto, Chris Odinda again, Adolphus Wagala, Dr. Dede, John Kimani, Oscar Muhahala, and last but not least, Kate Gitau. Those are the presenters who came and shared with us their thoughts. Can we appreciate them? Lastly, I want to appreciate another small team that organized this summit. Can they stand so that you see them? Those who are in the local organizing committee. Moses is there, I'm here, Chepcheng is there, Jojo War is there, I see Steve. Where's Patricia Wambugu? Now that one is so black I can't see. That looks like Paul Kahenya, isn't it? Yeah, I'm just associating with some features. Yeah. That is the team that organized this summit. If they did a wonderful job, you clap. If they did, wait, I'm giving you options. If you think that they didn't reach the threshold of clapping, don't clap. Huh? So the choice, did they reach the threshold? If yeah. Okay, sit down. So the challenge going forward is, do we organize this regularly or it become an event of 2025 and we bid it goodbye? I want a resolution so that I take to Professor Kibwagi. What do we do? Make it regular. Okay, if that's my acclamation, then I will pass it to management and we will see what to do next. My task ends there, and I want to wish you safe journey, and as we also mourn, isn't it? Thank you very much.
Before you go, there is that cliche that I declare.
I avoided that one deliberately because it is not in the, it was not a task specified. So since I made the welcoming remarks, now I also make the dismissing what? Remarks that the summit is officially closed. Is that? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, the summit has come to an end, and that's it. We meet next time. My name is Kyoko wa Kivandi. I work here at Egerton University. But like I once told you, Dr. Thiga, I have a very close interest in this, in AI, because I'm a PhD student at Kenyatta University, and I'm actually researching on the regulation of AI and policing of AI within the media sector in Kenya. And that's how I actually came to learn about this AI summit. So over and above moderating, I learned a lot, especially in the last session by Kate Gitao. Because those are exactly the things that, if you start researching on the regulation of AI, some of the first documents you'll come across is the EU framework, the UNESCO guidelines on AI, the AU framework, and so on and so forth. All right. Where is Kurian? Kurian had wanted, are you ready? So your request, just come forward as the technical team prepares to guide us on with just one stanza of the national anthem. Just come forward. Kurian has a request, which is?
Okay, good evening. The request is simple. All speakers who did presentation, plus our guests, all of them who are just here to come forward, we do a general group photo as a memorabilia for all of us, then we can go home. All of them, moderators, speakers, the DVC, plus the organizing team. It's a group photo in front here, right now, here.
Okay. All right, so yes, let's take this position. Let me have help in taking this down. Just pull them down here. Daisy, yes, come. Can we have help in placing these students? Just come forward. Tusaidie kutoa hizi tables. Hapo tu, we do the photo. And then Daisy, who has been our chaplain for the conference, please just come forward and close for us with a word of prayer. And thereafter we do the national anthem. And yes, there's a cup of tea. There's a cup of tea on our way home. You want this taken down? Yes. Okay, then the next photo will be for the organizing committee to just join them on stage. The organizing team. If we have any member of the organizing team who is not up here, no, Daisy, don't leave, don't exit the stage. All of them are there. Even Paul Kahenya. They were all here. Okay, perfect. Asante san. Asante. Okay, that's it. Let's have a word of prayer from Daisy. And thereafter, so let's stand for the word of prayer and the national anthem.
Let us pray. Our Father, our God, be glorified, be exalted. Father, we are full of gratitude for being with us throughout this 3-day AI in Higher Education Summit. We want to thank you in a special way for giving the idea to the Division of Research and Extension and the DVC academics to set up this inaugural summit. Thank you for the facilitators who've come all the way from the United States, even from Nairobi and from other universities, University of Kabianga. We want to thank you also for the students of Egerton University and for the lecturers who've been in attendance. Thank you so much, Father. As we depart from here, we pray that you may give journey mercies to all the attendees and the delegates who are in this summit. May you continue blessing all the sponsors, Coelib, TagDev, Google, CSAM, and all that I have not mentioned. I pray all this, trusting and believing in Jesus' name.
Thank you. Karibuni chai.